Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings and salutations, planet Earth. Welcome to yet another extremely international episode of Extraordinary Year. I'm Tim Bravo. Thanks for joining us tonight. T-minus 65 days until December 21st, 2012. Tonight our guests are Steve Beckow, who is hailing from Vancouver tonight. People who listen to this show pretty frequently have probably heard him on the program before. I believe this is Steve's third time. He runs the 2012scenario.com, which we frequently discuss on this show and which listeners know is a go-to site for me on a daily basis. We also have, first time tonight, Geoff West out of Toronto, and he is the anchor of Cosmic Vision News, and that's not news to a lot of people listening, and I'm sure that's on InLight Radio. And then we also have Christina Mahler, who has just woken up in Zurich, Switzerland. She runs the spiritgate.com and focuses on shamanic healing, and is also an InLight Radio contributor. So, guys, thanks for coming on tonight.
Good. Thanks, Tim.
Hey, thank you.
5 a.m. for Christina there in Zurich. And then, Geoff, you're out on the West Coast, or the East Coast, rather. So that, 11 o'clock for you now?
11 p.m. for me. No problems there. I can go anytime.
So here we are, 4 people, 4 different time zones. I love these shows, you guys. I love the global nature of where we are in 2012. We might complain about some things not happening, but at least we have this.
Absolutely.
Remarkable. You're in Wichita. We're all over the world right now.
Yeah. So InLight Radio is it's kind of a channel on Blog Talk Radio to itself. It's a lot of Blog Talk channels are like this one, where you have one show, one name, but InLight Radio has a slew of programs run by different people. So it's really more of an authentic channel for people who are interested and hungry for Ascension news, Ascension talk, and even beyond just Ascension, spirituality in general. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be a kind of a loose affiliation with the 2012 scenario in InLight Radio. Is it not as loose as it seems, or how is that working together, you guys?
Gee, I'm trying to remember how it all started up. It started up when Graham Douillet wanted to do a program interviewing Archangel Michael through Linda Dillon, and that was back in December, and he suggested it. And Graham was a 2012 scenario reader. And so we started with an hour with an angel, which has been absolutely such a wonderful experience for me. And very soon, Geoff, who was next? Who came on next? Was it you?
I think it was Cosmic Vision News. I started in April with InLight Radio, and then a little while after that, I think unless Graham started Heavenly Blessings, that may have come after Cosmic Vision News.
Or our Galactic Family?
Or our Galactic Family. I'd have to go take a look, but there were 3 programs that kind of started around that time, April and May. So there was Cosmic Vision News, Heavenly Blessings, and Our Galactic Family. And then a little bit later came Let's Talk 2012 and Beyond and the Light Agenda.
We're now at 6 programs a week. I don't think, it's we only have one day when we're not airing, and it's just been wonderful. It's been such an experience for all of us.
Well, okay, could you please kind of let's talk about these 6 different shows and what part each one of them plays in the overall picture of that particular channel, and just what part does each of those shows play in keeping listeners informed, fed spiritually, a little spiritual nutrition, what have you?
Sure, Geoff, do you want to?
Well, probably the best way to cover that would be to say that we are trying at InLight Radio to recognize that every individual is on a uniquely different but equally beautiful path at this time. And as such, each awakening soul needs different nourishment, so to speak, at different progressions of one's awareness. So the product and the package that we are offering, I think, is a good mixture that allows people at varying spaces of awareness. And I'm very intentional when I use the word spaces as opposed to the word level, because in terms of the galactic celestial realms, we're trying to be conditioned not to think in terms of levels as far as hierarchy or one being better or not better or more awakened as opposed to less awakened. We are all at exactly the space where each individual needs to be at this point in time in honoring his or her truth, in serving the larger goal that we are moving towards. So each program serves a small niche in terms of reaching out to individuals worldwide at whatever space of awareness they happen to be in this current moment of now.
So an hour with an angel concentrates on contemporary events, but it does so by discussing them with either an angel or last week we had the Divine Mother on, which is such a privilege. And in the past we've had Sanat Kumara on, who's the planetary Logos. We had St. Francis on a while back, and he acknowledged that he was Gandhi, that he incarnated as Gandhi, which was, just such an interesting thing to hear. And then Graham wants to familiarize people with our galactic family more. So he's been having a lot of star seeds on his program while it was running. He's taken a break for the moment. And people who have been aboard the ships, not quite sure if he's actually had galactics. We've had galactics on the Hour with an Angel. And Geoff covers the news from both a terrestrial perspective and a galactic perspective. So he's reporting the news, whereas we're listening to, say, Archangel Michael discuss the news behind the scenes, so to speak. And Heavenly Blessings concentrates more on spiritual instruction. So they may do meditations and visualizations and hear spiritual lectures and things like that. And Sierra Nablina and Dave Schmidt, have a call-in program. So theirs is a discussion with listeners, and they have quite a faithful and loyal following. So we've tried to fill in each niche, so to speak. And, of course, Christina is a member of InLight Radio, too, and Christina is a shamanic practitioner and is busy keeping us informed of what she sees in her journeys, shamanic journeys. Christina, do you want to talk about that?
How often are you taking these journeys?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, Steve was just saying that you've been contributing by keeping them abreast of any visions that you've been having.
Right. Yeah, I thought I heard a question after that. I'm sorry. Yeah,
well, I was just wondering, how often are you taking these journeys?
Frequently. I work almost daily in one form or another with. I connect with what you would say is the other side of the veil, and I have various techniques for doing that. But I'm tuning in quite often to the other side and getting information that I can then feed to the group that can help guide the group or keep everybody motivated. Sometimes that's a big role. Keep myself motivated.
Yeah, whose job is to keep you motivated?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I so appreciate being part of the team. We are really a soul group. I just wanted to add that. We are teams, but we are a very large soul family. And it appears that we're getting larger by the day, so it's expanding, and it's very satisfying to work with these folks.
I think we're all part of that soul group. Tim is, and Robert Stanley, and we're all here part of a communicator soul group. I think myself.
Yes.
Why don't you
And if I may add, if I may add to that, one of the things that I have seen, because one of the things I do is I do rather visionary work. I have seen these groups literally expanding out like Venn diagrams and connecting with each other across the globe. And ultimately, we will become the crystalline grid. We ourselves, as human beings, we form the grid.
Which is why we need you in Zurich.
Right.
I'm sorry?
How does that work, Christina? How does it work that people can form a crystalline grid? What does that mean?
Well, it's simply my viewpoint. We ourselves are becoming crystalline, and we're at various levels of that right now. We're in process. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. And as we become more crystalline and we link up with each other, we become this network of crystalline beings that circles the globe.
Is that like receivers and senders, that kind of thing? Or is it energetic?
It's more energetic.
Just connections and ley lines between the points, and the points being the people?
Well, yes, and if you can imagine looking at the Earth from above, as the celestials must look at us, we are points of light. And as some lights are a little bit brighter, and there are some center points that are a little bit brighter, but as we spread out and link up hands with each other, and I mean really link up our hearts with each other, it becomes a vast network. You know, imagine how the trees are. All of their roots under the ground are connected. Trees are not separate from each other, and they communicate with each other under the ground through their root system. And we will connect with each other through our hearts, and this is the process that's occurring on the planet right now.
When you begin a journey, you go down through a tree, do you not?
I use trees as my Axis Monday point. Yes, other people use other things, but I happen to like the trees.
That's awesome. Yeah, I happen to like trees a whole lot too. And actually, as we get into the show a little bit here, I'd like to ask you a little more about shamanism and other things associated with that.
Of course.
Now, and things related to InLight, and I believe Graham is behind this. Graham Douillet, the I Know My Galactic Family is Here video that was released that you guys got so much participation from, and I was hoping maybe you could explain to listeners what that video is, and then talk about some of the play count hijinks that have come as subsequently to uploading it.
Geoff, you want to?
Oh, you want me to take? Okay.
Sure.
Well, we've had messages from the galactic and celestial realm that have indicated that disclosure is not going to come from the leaders, but it is going to come from the people of the world. And the message has come to our group in the form of inspiration to put together this video that essentially takes voices around the world declaring more or less in unison that we know our galactic family is here. And the intention was to simply put the question out to other people to begin planting that seed of wonder or the seed of curiosity. Many people all over the world already know that our galactic families have been here, and based on my international experience personally, I think I could say that it's really North America that has been kept truly in the dark as far as the existence of civilizations or technologies of a beyond Earth origin. So the industrial military complex through the cabal-installed media have done a very effective job of keeping people in the dark as far as that particular issue, and of course many others that are now in the process of being exposed. But the onus really is on the people to begin taking action. We have seen the growth from the Occupy movement to everything since that point to awaken and inspire people into finding their individual truths or messages that they came here to share. And disclosure really is one of those, at least in my personal opinion, it's one of the key messages that will really open the door in a major way to solving all of the other problems and challenges that we are currently experiencing on the planet. Steve or Christina?
You'd think that YouTube would be a forward-looking outfit and really want this kind of news to get out, and yet YouTube has been underreporting the number of views of this, what I call disclosure video. At one point, I think the numbers were absolutely creeping up very, very slowly. But of course, we have the ability to ask the people on either an hour with an angel or else in personal readings how many views there have been. And at one point, I think there was YouTube was reporting something like 150,000 views, and the actual number was, I think, if I'm correct, 700,000.
It was over 730,000.
Yeah, so you can see that they were underreporting it by huge numbers. And not only has YouTube been underreporting it, but and YouTube is Google, but Yahoo has been interfering with the 2012 scenario site. They keep dropping everybody from our daily digest who has a Yahoo address. Their passwords fail. And again, people don't realize that we are able to ask the Celestials and the Galactics what's going on here. And it's been identified to us that there's one fellow at Yahoo who's actually doing this. And this is the second time he's done it, right? So it's kind of interesting to have sources who can see behind the scenes and tell us what's actually going on. It's quite humorous.
Yeah, and I have to admit that, when that first hit, it wasn't affecting me, but now it is. It now includes me. I am not getting the Daily Digest any longer, although
no.
it doesn't keep me from going to the site. But there is something to be said for the convenience of just having it, in an HTML email. But they're not going to stop me. And I've tried to re-sign up a couple of times to no avail.
What about RSS? What about the RSS?
I am the worst about reading RSS feeds.
Yeah.
I'll just go to the website.
Yeah, right.
Basically, that's what an RSS reader is anyway. So, yep. But I'm hoping that gets. Is there any way to? Because it's FeedBurner. Is it a FeedBurner issue?
FeedBlitz. No, it's Yahoo canceling passwords. That's about as much technology as I'm aware of. It is definitely one person at Yahoo who's got a personal grudge and is taking it out in this way. So, yeah. Well, but the disclosure video was done in 2 weeks. The script was done in a few hours, and the whole production was brought in 2 weeks. I don't, maybe you, Geoff and Christina or Tim have done a video before, but to me that was like rapid fire. That was incredible.
Well, I haven't done anything super long form. I do make 30-second spots for a living, but that's always going to be an undertaking, especially with a longer script like that. You have a lot of different elements to bring together. And who was the spearhead on that? Was it Graham?
Definitely Graham, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know why.
Guys putting that together.
Everybody chipped in. Everybody did a piece of it. But I can't believe we waited that long. Why did we wait so long to disclose? I wish we'd thought of it a year or two ago.
Well, yeah, it is a great idea, but a lot of ideas after the fact, people think, did it really take until that long until such and such was thought of? But I guess we all assume that we know what's going on and that everybody knows what's going on, and that we're sitting here waiting for some sort of big governmental disclosure, because really they're the ones that are hiding everything.
We were, yes. But 2012 has just whistled through. We're in October, and this is the big year, and we're still waiting for disclosure, NESARA, what have you.
Well, and so, it is October 2012, and things seem, even slow right now. are you guys receiving any inkling of an October surprise that 2012 style, Ascension style, disclosure style, October surprise? Any ideas along those lines, or anything you guys have been hearing?
Yeah. Geoff, do you want to go first, or Christina?
Well, why don't we let Christina go first this time?
Sure.
I would say yes, but I don't make me sign a contract. I feel there is something. I've been seeing this for years now, that there is an event on the horizon. And of course, horizon to us, we want to see it tomorrow. The galactics see that differently. But there is something coming up. I saw this about 2.5 years ago. And it's going to, it really is an energetic bomb of love, if you will. And it's going to break our hearts open. And it's really going to shift us around. And this is not Ascension. This is something that's going to happen before Ascension that will assist the Ascension process. And when it happens, how it happens, when I talk to my spirits, they laugh at me and they say, well, you like to think you know everything, but this is going to be a surprise. And we're not going to tell you. And they refuse to tell me anything about it. And it's funny, my teacher, my shamanic teacher, she's been at this for decades, and her spirits have told her, you're going to know when it happens. It's all we'll get. No one can see it. We're not allowed to. It is absolutely a very loving event. That's what I can tell everybody.
Well, and I know David Wilcock.
I'm sorry?
Event. I was saying I know that David Wilcock has alluded to an event. We've all heard that something big is on the, or a lot of us have felt something big is on the way. So I was just curious if there were any specifics, or in what avenue it might take form. And
we will be prepared for this. We're being worked on in the night. I often catch them. I catch them in my dream state, so I know what they're doing. And we're being worked on a very deep unconscious level to help prepare us for everything. They love us dearly. They're holding us quite gently. They've been trying to sort of pull us out of a bad dream gently. They may have to turn the sound of the alarm clock up a little bit, because we do like to press the snooze button a lot. But it's all being done with absolute exquisite love.
Well, I'm ready to wake up.
Yeah.
Right. Well, remind us to talk about Gatekeepers. Remind us to talk about NESARA. There's going to be a lot of early ascensions. There was a lot of discussion in channel literature of what was called the return of the masters. And for the longest time, I assumed that what they were talking about was Jesus was going to return, and Buddha and Lao Tzu, and those things may happen. But for the most part, what they were really talking about is early ascensions, that a certain number of light workers who were ready for it would ascend early and then return, then come back and model ascension. That's one thing they would do. They would be energetic transmitters. They would more or less lead the way. And when they're called gatekeepers, it's not because they keep people out of the gate, but because they're pushing people through. So we can expect that. That Archangel Michael has been talking about that for a year, and I misunderstood what he was saying for the longest time. But recently, I've confirmed both with him and with the Divine Mother that yes, in fact, a lot of light workers will be asked to ascend early and then come back and show what they have seen and model by everything about them, what the ascension state looks like, feels like, etc., etc. So that's something we can expect starting probably not distant future by any means. And then the second thing is we know that NESARA is just around the corner. It's President Obama. Geoff, you were telling me about him signing an executive order.
Yes, I don't feel comfortable yet giving too much details on this. From what I appear to, or what I think I know up to this moment of time, is that Obama has apparently signed another executive order, and it appears to be interpreted as meaning that the government can begin raiding people's bank accounts. And I want to caution and advise discernment with that, because I think there might be a bigger story behind it. The cabal wants to think that certain declarations are being made in their favor, when in reality the declaration could actually be used against the cabal. So, for example, the alleged executive order for FEMA camps, for example, people got up in arms about the fact that the people were going to be the ones who were thrown into the FEMA camps. And when there are other sources saying that, no, this will be for holding the cabal members so that they can go through whatever process each cabal individual needs to go through to decide whether or not he or she wishes to switch over and join the forces of light, or require some other process to determine where he or she will go in the future. So I don't want to say too much yet, because I don't know enough about that particular story, but continue on, Steve.
Well, certainly Archangel Michael has been saying, both in personal readings and on the Hour with an Angel, that NESARA is, I think on one occasion he said, there was a word he used, not immediately, but I can't remember the exact word, but I asked him to interpret
Was it soon rather than...
No, it wasn't soon. It was another variety of words.
I think I remember reading
Imminent.
Yeah,
imminent was one. Yeah, and I said, well, okay, what does imminent mean? And he said days. And so we expect it maybe not this week, but perhaps next. And of course, every time we've ever made a prediction, anytime anyone has ever made a prediction, they've been wrong. No prediction has come true, because the proof is we don't have disclosure, we don't have NESARA, et cetera, et cetera. So nobody's been correct. But nonetheless, he did say within days, and if it's not here this week, we expect it next week. That's NESARA or pre-NESARA, one or the other. Pre-NESARA would be for light workers. But last time we were on the show, Tim, we talked about containment. Do you remember?
Yep.
And so that's going along quite well, apparently. Every major leader who's not playing with a full deck is in containment now. Apparently people like Ahmadinejad are in containment. And and we talked about a long time ago, that John Roberts, the Supreme Court Justice, is in containment. Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So today we got the surprise news that kind of rocked the financial world, about the CEO and COO of Citigroup just suddenly resigning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Christina, you have a lot of financial knowledge.
No, I do not. But I have been given my own information repeatedly that we're looking at a meltdown very shortly, and it'll be short and sweet. But And
I have a dream from the past few days and this was a long extended dream that had no fewer than 4 extraterrestrials involved. But one of the things that I saw in this long extended dream was these mountains that surrounded me. It was night, it was cold, they were covered in snow, and then all of a sudden there were all these explosions and the rock was flying everywhere. And something else happened, and later on, I went to bed, I woke up next to my wife in the dream, and the next day in the dream, those same mountains were not blown up. They were covered in green, fresh trees. It was warm out, sunny out, just beautiful. The mountains weren't destroyed by the explosions, but there was just renewed beauty.
Interesting.
As scary as it seemed the night
before. The removal of the old, birth of the new.
Well, you know how we have been thinking and talking about how the whole financial world would crash and then NESARA would come in. The way I understand it now is that Archangel Michael said the other day that the reason NESARA has taken so long is that they wouldn't allow this scenario to play out. They wouldn't allow a crash.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it down more gently. And I asked him how was NESARA going to show up, and he said that people would simply have more zeros added to their bank accounts. So it's very, very simple. Very simple. Very straightforward. Not a lot of fuss and muss and bother. Christina, did you want to?
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing. I mean, Saint Germain has come to me on more than one occasion and has explained to me why this is so important for us, which is to relieve our stress and to get us off of this wheel that we find ourselves on, so that we really can turn our attention away from the material world and to our inner world and begin working on our consciousness. And that is the importance of the money. And I think that needs to be stressed. It's not so that we can go out and buy more things and try to make this world a better, a more materialistic place. Just the opposite. It's so that we can unhitch from the material world, so to speak. Does that make sense?
I think it makes perfect sense. You take away the need. You take away, you provide abundance. Anything you need is basically there for you. You don't have to stress about how you're going to pay the bills. You don't have to worry about, responsibilities at work. You basically are taken care of, and you can then use that energy that you put towards being stressed and towards making it through your everyday life and apply it to the inner work that you talk about. I think that makes perfect sense.
That's exactly it. And that we come into balance within our relationship to money, so that we're not wildly swinging from I have too much and I have too little, that we come into balance with it and we understand the right use of money, which is really to extend to others and to share our gifts. And ultimately, money becomes absolutely meaningless. It has become devalued, if you will. If everybody's got the right amount of money, then it doesn't have the charge that it used to have.
Well, we know how energy works. We know that things move from areas of higher concentration to lesser, and if you have less inequality, you have less energy moving. So, as above, so below. I wanted to talk to you guys. One of the reasons I asked you guys to come on is you've got this big conference coming up. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. You have a 2012 scenario Ascension workshop type conference. So if you could tell listeners what that's about, when it is. First one sold out, right?
Yes, that's right. About 300 seats on the first one. It's the theme of the conference is preparing for Ascension. Just the other day, with the Universal Mother, I asked her what level of enlightenment Ascension corresponded to. And she discussed that with me. It's a level called Sahaja. And Tim, do you know Ramana Maharshi?
I can't say I do.
Oh, okay. He's an Indian sage, very well known in Indian circles, anyways, Hindu circles. That's who we'd be like. We would be like this very gracious sage. When I try to imagine that, I'm just blown away that Ascension is so evolved a place to be. So the conference, one of the things we're going to try to do is contextualize Ascension. So, for instance, we'll place Ascension in the larger picture, and by the larger picture, I mean the total life journey of a soul from God to God. We'll see where Ascension fits in, what's the difference between Ascension and Enlightenment. Ascension essentially means, it's a word that's used to apply for progress, from one dimension to another. So if we were on the astral planes and we just moved from the lower Summerlands to the middle Summerlands to the higher Summerlands, that would not be ascension. Ascension would be if we leave the astral planes and go to the mental planes. So the astral planes are the fourth dimension, and the mental planes are the fifth. So we'll be trying to give people an understanding of what ascension is, what ascension's not, what is required to ascend, the fact that it's not some kind of panel of old men with white beards saying you can go and no, you can't go, get you off to my right hand, get you off to my left hand. It's none of that. It's very scientific. And we'll be trying to remove some of the mystery from ascension, relax people, explain to them what's happening inside their bodies and inside their emotions and what is causing this release of negativity that's happening. So that's the task that we've taken on, to contextualize ascension, explain it, have people feel comfortable with this process and relax into it. Did you want to add anything, Geoff or Christina?
Go ahead, Christina.
Oh, thanks, Geoff. No, I think the important thing with ascension is that it removes us from this incredible reincarnational cycle of this loop that we've been in, sort of a hallucinogenic loop of life and death. And, I mean, there is no death. We know that. But we believe that death exists, and it sure as heck looks like it exists. And once we've ascended, we literally have the free will to leave our bodies when we wish, without the aging process, without illness and disease. We will have the ability to remove ourselves from one body and move into another. It becomes a much more joyful experience.
You know, Christina, you have just said, essentially, that ascension will see us liberated from the round of birth and death, right?
Yes.
I mean, Buddhists would want that. I mean, that would be like the ultimate treasure to a Buddhist or a Hindu or anybody who knew about these things, right? And yet we're getting it freely presented to us.
Yes.
I mean,
And we're frightened of it. Believe it or not, we're frightened of it because the ego has got us set up saying, no, 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 no. You don't want to leave this beautiful world. Look at all the treasures I have for you. Look at I have your body and money and sex and food. And isn't it just wonderful here? And beyond that, if you, quote unquote, die or ascend, then you have to face an angry God. And, you know, these things lie very, very deep in our unconscious. We're not aware of this, but it's been ingrained in us. And I think this is the unlearning that has to take place. And it will take place quite rapidly, from my point of view. Quite rapidly.
Yeah. Well,
now, you guys have a second conference that's still, you have a few seats left, right?
Yes, about 160 seats left. However, if NESARA's declared next week, they'll go like hotcakes, I'm sure.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
We do.
Because it would be nothing to hop on a plane, right?
That's right.
So for listeners who are curious about maybe attending that workshop, what are the dates? I know it's Sedona.
Oh, gee, the dates.
30, 31st, and the 1st is the second one.
Oh, this
Starting
month.
on the 30th.
So
yes.
Over Halloween.
Yeah, it's Halloween.
Right.
Yeah.
And what a great time to be talking about spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And the 1st of November is All Saints' Day, and I think that's absolutely appropriate.
Yep.
And it's your birthday, too, Christina.
It's my birthday. But more importantly, so now the whole world knows to celebrate my birthday.
All Saints and Christina, too.
That's right. Let's get the priorities here.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to know any of the details about the conference, they can go to the 2012 scenario site. So that would be http://the2012scenario.com. All the details are there. A lot of the people coming there, Tim, we've known each other for at least 4 years. We've been together in discussion groups. We've been talking back and forth through the blog, but we've never met in 4 years. And it's as if, well, listen, I don't think Geoff and Christina, we've ever met either. So
No.
But, we know each other, and This is the first time we're going to be able to get together. It's just going to be a party. Just going to be absolutely incredible.
Tim, it's not just that we know each other, we're best friends, and we've never met.
We
talk every day.
Definitely seem to have quite a rapport, and I know you've been working together and everything, and it's kind of amazing to think that it's all, virtual.
Yeah.
All virtual.
Well, we've been working on InLight Radio. We've been working on the 2012 scenario. We have been working on the fringes of NESARA. We've been working on disclosure, and it's almost as if we have either a separate discussion group for each of these, and yet we're the same people that are working on all these groups. So it's been very, very gratifying, and this is going to be like a reunion. Is there such a word as a union? Since we haven't.
Yeah, it's not a reunion.
We're going to remember ourselves.
That's correct.
Literally and figuratively.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you guys are looking forward to it as much as the people who are just going to. Now, who all is going to be speaking?
Christina, are you speaking?
No, I'm observing.
We are very fortunate to have people like Mike Quincy, who is the known channel for Salusa and the Galactic Federation, and we have Jeannie Townsend, a native of Sedona, who will be sharing some of her wisdom, imparting to the group. We have Blossom Goodchild from Australia coming up to share with us. And we also have a 19-year-old man, Wes Annick, who is a Pleiadian walk-in soul.
Wes is only 19?
Yes. So he will be our youngest contributor, speaker, presenter to the group, sharing what he has become, or is basically his experience as a walk-in soul. So he will be joining along with Sierra, who is also a Pleiadian walk-in, and with everyone else on the InLight team who will be sharing.
Susie Ward, right?
Susie Ward, yeah. Linda Dillon.
Matthew Ward.
And my apologies, Susie, if you're listening. Yep, my apologies. Yes, thank you for correcting me on that. Absolutely, yeah. Susie Ward, who channels Matthew Ward. Yeah, many wonderful sources that are very highly respected and followed around the world, who are all being brought together on one platform. And I think that's really part of what makes this particular conference unique. There are a lot of people or conferences that have multiple speakers, but I'm not sure if we could say there are too many that have such a range of presenters from numerous different areas, backgrounds, all contributing towards the same goal.
Has Mike Quincy ever done a conference? Has he ever spoken?
To my knowledge, he may have done some speaking events in Europe, but this will be his first trip to the United States. So this really is if that is a signal of change, that could very well be considered one of them. So I guess he's never had a need or never had a desire, I'm not sure, to come to the States, but this particular conference was enough. It obviously seemed to mean enough to him that he felt he really wanted and perhaps even had to be there to be a part of it. So we're
If I could jump in and add something to this conference, the speakers are extremely powerful. The audience is extremely powerful also. The people who are coming to this conference are people who are very attuned to this work. And many of them are, I would say the majority of them are light workers. So you're talking about, and you're in a city of light. You're in a city that in and of itself is a vortex. So it's a vortex within a vortex. And I don't know what the exponential number is. I have to research that. But it's something like to the power of 4. Cryon talks about this. When you get people, like-minded people together, the power of a group. So it's like 300 times 300 times 300 times 300. That's a lot. That's a lot of energy that's going to be there over this period of time, and I think that's what makes the conference so extraordinary.
And some of the editors or radio show hosts, because Stephen Cook, for instance, is an editor and a radio show host, are very accomplished spiritually and psychically themselves. It's funny to be in a group where 3 or 4 people are having psychic visions of what's going to happen next and know what you're thinking or feeling. It's quite an unusual experience.
Yeah, I'll bet you're a little more. You pay attention to your own thoughts probably a little bit in a situation like that.
Yeah, and but also you're curious to hear what what people have to say. I mean, Christina takes a journey that morning. Stephen Cook just knows what's happening or senses what's going to come around the corner. It's enlivening, that's for sure. But I think another aspect of it is, Tim, that we haven't really talked about is we've been challenged, shall we say, by Archangel Michael to develop the new paradigm and model it. And for me, personally, the new paradigm is the same as the divine qualities, right? So bliss, joy, compassion, integrity, what have you. We've been invited by Archangel Michael and Sanat Kumara and others to kind of delve into that, and as a group, and when I say a group, I mean, you could say, well, InLight Radio, or you could cut the pie another way and say the 2012 scenario, you could cut the pie another way and talk about other aspects of the group or the conference or whatever. In all our doings, we answer to Archangel Michael, right? And Archangel Gabriel and what have you. And it's kind of funny because in some of our dealings long ago, months ago, there were 1 or 2 people who were, how can I say it, didn't quite live up to the standards of integrity that we'd like to have lived up to. And Archangel Michael knew about everything that was going on. There's absolutely nothing that you can keep from an archangel, right? I mean, and it was even silly to try. But so we're under this watchful eye, so to speak. And if we trip up, we're told about it in our readings or on an hour with an angel and kept to the mark. So I don't think I've ever been in a as interesting a venture as what we're going through right now.
And just this year. When did Hour and a Minute with an Angel start? Was it this year?
December of 2011.
2011. So yeah, it
2011.
Was. Yeah, a lot of things kind of sprung up just this year.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Christina, while I've got you on the show, I wanted to, it's not unheard of for us to turn discussions into, talk to use of natural compounds to achieve altered states like DMT, ayahuasca, the people who, are the proponents, what they say the benefits are. We've got kind of a younger listenership, and my co-hosts who sometimes come on are definitely in that, they're cool dudes. Let me put it that way. So, as a shamanic healer, you sort of specialize in altered states of consciousness, right?
Yes, I do.
So what is your preferred method for getting into those altered states?
My preferred method, because it's far less strenuous on the body, is to do a shamanic journey, which simply uses drumming or rattling to put myself into a trance state, and then I can move into parallel universes. And I also use my breath. I can do it now with breath work, and I use daily, I use hemisync work, the hemisync work from the from the Monroe Institute, although you can use any binaural beat to achieve the same goal. It doesn't have to be from the Monroe Institute, but that happens to be what I enjoy. So those, I'd say, are the 3 pillars of my work with altered consciousness. I have other techniques, but I have other I'm fairly open about it, but I don't like to talk about it too much because I think so many people see this work as recreational, and it is strictly sacred work. It is not recreational, and most people don't know how to use it.
Well, and along those lines, when I think shamanic healing, I think of Don Juan, and I think of his ally, and I know how dangerous spiritually it can be from reading the Castaneda books. So it's obviously something that not to take lightly. I just know that that's part of shamanism, or historically it's been part of shamanism. Just kind of curious. Thought I'd probe and see what you might have to say on that.
The dangers involved. Is that the question?
Well, no, just what your take was on the use of hallucinogenics. Like I said, it's come up on the show, and so I can't have a shaman on the show and not ask.
Christina?
Yeah, of course. No. And it's very controversial. I have to say it's controversial in the shamanic community. I have colleagues who are absolutely opposed to it. I mean, fundamentally opposed to it, vehemently opposed to it. And then I have those who are more open to it. I think you just have to know what you're doing. I'm highly trained in this. And I spent years and years working through my own childhood traumas before I was able to really learn the art of how to use these tools. It is an art form. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can wind up in areas that can be very scary.
Well, my understanding is, these altered states of consciousness are just you shifting your vibration, your consciousness, the vibration of your consciousness, then that these particular compounds have a designed effect to bring you to a particular resonance. And if you're not ready for that, then stuff can happen. But
it will show you truth, and if you're not ready to see it and you cannot integrate it, if you do not have the tools to integrate it, or you are not in a safe environment, you're going to need some help there. People who are using this stuff and going out into the world in an altered state where there is so much negative energy flying around, and you're in a very open state, that is, you're basically unprotected at that point. It's not advisable.
Christina, how does one train to become a shaman?
It's a lot of work. There are courses, and there are courses all over the world, and there are courses, I have to say, of very various degrees of professionalism, if you will. You then have to work on your own. And there are various initiations you have to go through to help reduce the ego, not to slay the ego, but to reduce the ego. And life itself is the biggest initiator, I have to say. Life will always hand you the lessons you need to get your ego in line. And then you just work at it on your own. I work at it daily. It's a spiritual practice. And I think that's what most people don't understand. It is a spiritual practice, and if there's one thing that's missing on this planet, it's a spiritual practice that people can apply themselves to on a daily basis. It's not a once a week, or it's not a once a month, or it's daily.
And are most teachers native or not?
No, not the ones I know. I've been with natives, but no, not at all. In fact, there's a huge movement right now, particularly in America, and also to some degree over here in Europe, through the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, which is really designed for Western cultures, how to introduce the Western cultures into something that's been on this planet for 60,000 years. It's the original spiritual practice. Anybody who wants more information can contact the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, or Sandra Ingerman has a wonderful website. She's one of the primary teachers. Michael Harner is another one. He wrote the book, The Way of the Shaman. He was the first to introduce it. These are classics now. So I would encourage people to investigate that. If they don't have a spiritual practice, to at least consider it, because it is a path of direct revelation. It just enables you to go within and have direct personal contact with the spirit world, with your own personal spirit guide. There's no substitute for that.
Well, I know I would love to have that experience.
Do it. Now there's a little book out there, and I'm always plugging it because it's so fantastic, and it's called the Shamanic Journey, the Beginner's Guide to Journeying. And it's this tiny little book. You can read it in one evening, and it's got a CD in it, and you can try it out. You're not in danger. I think this is what people are frightened of, that this is going to put them in a dangerous situation. But as soon as you've got your power animal with you, you're totally protected. Totally.
Well, and it really is about faith and belief. That's how you protect yourself. I guess I say that like I know, but I'm assuming.
You have to know that love is the strongest force in the universe. And when you are surrounded, when you are in your heart and you call upon your own inner resources and your own inner divinity, you're totally protected. Nothing can happen to you. That's my own personal belief. I had some encounters this week with some sorcerers out of Africa, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And I, right up to the last minute, I thought, oh, is this going to be okay? And then there it was. Archangel Michael showed up and scooted them off and said, thank you very much. And my power animal was there, and I was fine. And I sort of had this Harry Potter moment, up against Voldemort, but, totally protected.
When you talked about your power animal the other day, you said it was a seraph.
I have one of my power animals who shows up. It's one of my allies, I should say. Is a seraph. Yes, very high being apparently.
Well, so when you talk about a power animal, are you really talking about a power animal, or are you talking about a spirit like a seraph?
I have one power animal that has been with me since birth and it's my personal guide. And then I have another, a variety of different animals. Most of them, I have a snake, I have an eagle, I have an owl, I have a raven, I have a horse, a number of different animals that will show up for very specific reasons. They're specialized, if you will. But I have one power animal.
I guess what I'm asking is, are power animals really animals, or are they kind of a way that a spirit? It's a way that spirits show up. Okay.
Yes. If there's an exercise you can do, and you can ask your power animal to show itself in its non-form, as a non-form being, and it's pure light, huge light.
Pure light.
Yeah.
Right.
Pure light.
Well, a seraph is quite a companion.
Yes,
quite an ally.
I like my eagle. I like my eagle very much.
Are there a lot of people in Europe that are also shamans, so that you have colleagues?
Yes, I have colleagues here. I have wonderful colleagues, and it's growing. Europe has a lot of scar tissue around this work because of the burning years, the 300 years that we were men, women, and children, not just women. And I've done a lot of healing work around this, and it's a little more difficult here. A little more difficult. It's a little more difficult to get people in the German community to sing, for instance, because of what happened during World War II and with the Nazis. It's a different. There's scar tissue here. Cryon talks about it too, and it's very thick. And I think one of the reasons I was transported to Europe was to. I bring a certain frequency that is not so suppressed, if you will. I'm a little freer, and I think that's why I was stationed here, to help anchor the light a little more strongly and to help people break through that. I'm not sure that that's my feeling, though. Europe is a different situation, than America. America doesn't have this scar tissue.
Guys, give just 10 seconds. Listeners, check out the YouTube video on the Facebook page tomorrow. And those of us who are on the call, we'll just go ahead and keep talking and finish this out. I've noticed that even as Blog Talks episodes, the live feed ends, it still records as we discuss. And so I've been going long and letting people say what needs to be said and just uploading to the YouTube version the next day with everything for anything that anybody missed out on. And speaking of things that I think we ought to cover real quick before we call it a show, UFOs, you guys. This may just be me, but I keep several alerts, email alerts for stories. And my alerts for UFOs have tapered off severely. The stuff that's coming through is all the same stuff, and it's not. There's not a lot of good sighting related material. Not a lot of new videos. Has anybody else noticed this change?
Well, it's not only with UFOs, Tim. A lot of everything has tapered off significantly. For instance, a lot of financial news has tapered off significantly, and a lot of, one has to notice as well that we're not seeing tropical storms and tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanoes. We've entered a time of peace, number one, and number two, we're in the last little bit before the wave breaks. We're in the last days and weeks before the really significant things start to happen. And I think the galactics are lying low. They don't want to excite the cabal to a last ditch. Well, you can see on a local level, the cabal has been causing last ditch things like the Aurora shootings and other local events like that. And each time they do, of course, they put back disclosure by a week or so. Or whatever, because they interrupt the sequence of meetings that are happening, and that all has to be rejigged again. But I think the reason why there aren't the large number of UFOs that we were promised is that we are so close to the curtain going up, and they don't want to cause fear amongst the population or incite the cabal to react. That's my take. Geoff, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are taking place behind the scenes as well. And while you were talking, Steve, the analogy popped into my mind of the movie Deep Impact. Of course, it's a Hollywoodized movie about a comet coming to Earth. I don't know if you are, maybe some of the listeners are familiar with that movie. But one of the comets hit in the ocean, and that was an event that took place out of the main sight of the people. But the impact of the comet created a tsunami, and the water that is around the shoreline always recedes and pulls into the ocean before the tsunami comes. So I think what has been taking place is something along that lines, but not in a bad way, of course. There has been an impact at one level in one other place. That place is not really defined, but the water has receded, and the wave is about to come in, and it's going to impact humanity in a significant and wonderful and a beautiful way. So it's going to be more than perhaps what we've expected and dreamed of, and as I have begun telling people, the journey for us is both humbling and empowering, because we are in the process of realizing that we are both smaller and yet larger than we ever thought or were allowed to believe possible.
And what happens when that is up?
That's perfect, Geoff.
Yeah, that was an awesome analogy, by the way. The recession of the news is just, as in, that analogy, it's given me just a whole new renewed sense of hope. That's a really good analogy.
I've been told that we're in a period of dead calm. If anybody, it's just dead calm right now in preparation for something. And what I would like to second what Geoff said, it's a tsunami of love that's coming.
So light workers, be not afraid.
No.
Oh, no, be not afraid at all. No.
Not at all.
don't despair at the lack of excitement, the ho-hum nature of day-to-day life that just simply appears that nothing is changing at all.
Well, but even that is a sign of change, Tim, is it not? I mean, just think back 3 years ago, how many earthquakes were happening and volcanoes. And of course, these were all set off by HAARP and scalar weapons. I mean, here we are with none of this, and we think of it as ho-hum, whereas in reality, it's a great blessing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's almost as if we missed the drama.
Exactly. I said that once. What if we had peace and we could actually stand it? You know?
Yeah, right. We'd all be so bored. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny?
No,
I mean, you know.
If
but
we
that
had
is that's a very real point, because the ego likes action. The ego is always looking for action, but our soul wants peace, and there's the conflict.
Well, and so right now we look for action to achieve peace, but once peace has been achieved, then our souls can look for action in other venues that thrill us and give us joy and bliss.
That's right.
Activities that we're not doing now because, you know, A, we don't have the money, B, we don't have the time, which are kind of one and the same thing. Yeah. Or, you know, C, we're busy fighting the good fight and trying to spread awareness. You know, what happens when we're no longer needed to do that, and we can focus on other things.
That's right.
Well, I think the Galactics know that too, and the Celestials and what have you, because they're not only planning to bring in peace, but they're planning to bring in abundance with it, so that those light workers who want to, for instance, can carry abundance to Africa or assist in cleaning up the earth. Or we're not only going to have leisure time, but we're also going to have the wherewithal to actually make an impact on the conditions around us.
And there has been a challenge over the... Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to talk, Tim?
Oh, I was just going to say that we have peace. Well, we have relative peace right now, but we don't have abundance yet. But once we have both, there'll be lots to do. Thanks, Geoff.
I think that's it. I just want to share that I was given a vision a week ago that anchored something so deeply in my soul. I'm echoing. Can you hear me?
No, you sound fine to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear the echo, Christina. Yeah. Somebody may have their, I don't know what it is. Quite clear.
Okay, I'll just forge ahead here. But I was given a vision, and I was literally shown the rising of the new consciousness. And it looked as if Atlantis was rising again, or Lemuria. It was a light, an unparalleled light. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And they told me as I was witnessing this is unstoppable. This cannot be prevented. And I wanted to share that with the listeners, that everybody knows in their heart nothing can stop this from happening.
That's a beautiful thought. And Geoff, I think we interrupted you a ways back. Was something you wanted to... No?
Yeah, well, we've kind of shifted off the topic of peace. I was just going to make a few comments. The journey for humanity, a part of remembering ourselves, is also understanding the awareness of peace, and that flows from our relation to the oneness that is life. And you know, when I studied at the University for Peace a few years ago, I did my master's thesis, and my research found that the word peace really does not have a broadly accepted holistic definition. So it raised a lot of questions in my mind as to what people were actually claiming to want when they said we want peace. Because we hear leaders talking about wanting peace or that they will impose peace. We hear negotiators who claim to negotiate peace. We hear about researchers who claim to measure or quantify peace. And academics claim to study it. And there are institutions that claim to teach it. But in the last 100 years or so, with all of the United Nations declarations for this, that, and the other thing, it has still been one of the most violent, if not the most violent, centuries in human history. So it has really been the catalyst for awakening at this particular time. And of course, everything is by design at this particular point. So the journey is understanding what it is peace is, how am I contributing to it, or how am I being peace in terms of the overall culture. So the challenge really has been to understand what people are really claiming to want when they talk about peace, from three-dimensional, four-dimensional, five-dimensional perspective.
That's true. That's true. Well, guys, we probably ought to wrap it up. I was going to probe you for any final thoughts, any messages for listeners out there to wrap it up.
Well, I think what I'd like to leave listeners with is that this is a very unusual time and a memorable time that we're going through, because we're actually able to see ourselves take an evolutionary step. But it's only one step in a long journey, and we get to see ourselves taking a step. That's very useful. But the journey goes on and on and on. And so I hope we all get into enjoying the ride, just relax into it, because we're going to be together for a long time, and we've got a long distance to go. And hope to see you all at the conference.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Christina?
Yeah, I'm thinking what would be my final thought. First, thank you for inviting me. I think, what's guiding me right now, a lot of times light workers think, oh, what can I do? It's just little old me. And little old me can do a lot, because we're so holographic that whatever we do changes the entire system, even the smallest things. So just wake up in the morning and say, how can I make somebody else's life better today, including my own? And can I smile more? And sometimes that's all that is required.
Geoff?
I think I'd like to tell the listeners, I want to leave them with an empowering word. Many have kind of come to me, for example, and I'm sure they have to everyone at InLight and in any group around the world, who have said, boy, I wish I could do what you're doing. And I would really like to say to the listener that what you do is equally as important as anything that I do or anything that anyone else does, because each experience that a soul brings impacts at a very different level that another soul can't touch or affect at that moment in time. So every path has an important and significant contribution to the overall goal of love, light, ascension, and each soul's experience of ascension will be uniquely different, but equally beautiful in terms of his or her soul contract at this particular time. And try not to look at others and judge your own form relative to that. Celebrate what you are awakening to find that strength and empowerment to share your truth with the world and go out and do that fearlessly. Live a life on time.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Thank each and every one of you guys for coming on tonight. And those last thoughts were all beautifully done. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Jim.
And best of luck with your conferences. And thanks for going out there and spreading the light in your own ways.
You too.
All right, well, next week, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Joel Garvin, who is the president of the New Energy Movement. He took that up after the death of former astronaut Brian O'Leary, and we'll be talking about the state of free energy, or new energy. We'll talk about his take on the Kesha announcement last month, and a couple of new developments that he's been witnessing firsthand. That's it for us tonight. The 65th day before December 21st, 2012. Keep your ear to the ground. Hold on tight, kids. Do not be afraid. This is going to be an extraordinary year. Peace is on its way. Namaste.